For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The 2021 MLB season is here, and although the seats may not be full, your bankroll has the chance to be. Greg Hoops Peterson has you covered for every game, every day this season, along with comprehensive analysis and angles for getting to the window while celebrating the walk-off winners and blown saves of what will be a wild season. Now it is time for the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello. Welcome to Looks Down at Screen, Bloomington, Minnesota, for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson, in the great state of Minnesota for a friend's wedding. I didn't know whether I would be in Minneapolis. We're going to be in Rochester tomorrow, so it's a lot of fun. What else is a lot of fun? Being able to chat with Dan Szymborski. He does a terrific job over there at FanGraphs. Wound up having that interview before I wound up jumping on a plane, and we're going to be chatting with him in the second segment about these wildcard races, the postseason in general, the pitfalls, trials, tribulations, what have you, of the San Diego Padres, and teams that could wind up playing spoiler this season. And in the final segment, going to give you guys sign total on every game on the betting board for this Friday, and a little something like call, touch them all. First things first, always love to be able to answer your Twitter questions on this podcast. You've got one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated, and then from there, you are able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast, whether that be a question, comment, segment, idea, what have you. Did not wind up getting in any Twitter questions today, but had a fun but small slate of baseball on Thursday. So let's take a look back at it. Tried to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
How about a 1-0 slobber knocker that wound up going down, as that's what we wound up seeing between the Cincinnati Reds and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Tyler Mahle winds up delivering a very good start for the Cincinnati Reds, in which he winds up going 6 scoreless innings. Lucas Sims, Michael Lorenzen, Michael Givens give you all the scoreless innings from there. As for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they wind up having a little bit of a wholesale approach in this one. Cody Ponce winds up taking the L. You wound up giving up 1 run in his 3 innings. Starter Connor Overton wound up pitching 3 scoreless innings, and then Sam Howard, Chasen Shreve, Shelby Miller all give you a scoreless inning. And for the Pirates, they are currently dead last in the league when it comes to runs per game. And the Reds, well, they've been struggling on offense as well, but just enough to be able to get the job done in this one. Not getting the job done, that'd be the Chicago White Sox, who wind up losing to the LA Angels by a count of 9-3. As north of minus 150 favorites, the White Sox, I believe, are now 16-15 in their last 31, so I haven't been coming through there. Meanwhile, for the Angels, coming through for them, a pair of gentlemen who wound up going deep, as you wound up having Luis Rengifo along with Jose Rojas. Both get their 5th home run of the season, and Alex Cobb first start off the injured list. He had not started in quite a while. 5 scoreless innings. Junior Guerra does wind up giving up 3 runs in his inning, but Jimmy Aragote, Mike Myers, and then Oliver Ortega was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And for the Chicago White Sox, Reynaldo Lopez, who had not given up more than 3 earned runs in a single start this year. 7 runs, 6 of which were earned over the course of 4 innings. That was not good. Jace Fry from there was able to give you an inning out of the bullpen, giving up 2 runs. Ryan Burr, Jose Ruiz, Liam Hendricks, all scoreless inning, and then Michael Wright was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and Rami Gonzalez was able to give you the final out of the bullpen. As out of the bullpen, you wound up having some good performances from the Oakland A's, 7-2. They wind up taking down the Kansas City Royals. Royals get both of their runs in the first inning via a Salvador Perez home run. His 45th of the season. That actually leads the big leagues now. As for the Oakland A's, Paul Blackburn gives that one up, gives up 2 runs in total over the course of 5 innings, and then Deolis Carrera, Andrew Chafin, Sergio Romo combined for 4 scoreless innings. For the Oakland A's, you were able to go 3 of 13 with men in scoring position, as they wound up getting quite a few unearned runs, as Daniel Lynch only lasts 2 innings in this one, gives up 3 runs, only 1 was earned. he wound up being hurt by an error out there in the field. From there, Joel Payampas gives up an unearned run in his 2 innings. Jake Brentz gives up 3 runs without getting it out of the bullpen, but Tyler Zuber along Josh Shamon, they both combined for a scoreless inning apiece, and Domingo Tapia was able to give you 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Gabe Spear was able to give you 1 1/3 as well. The biggest underdog to be able to come through on Thursday, that would be the Baltimore Orioles. 3-2, they take down the New York Yankees, and if you're looking for a betting trend with the Baltimore Orioles, they are 4-1 when Chris Ellis takes the mound. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 4 2/3 innings, including a home run. Going deep for the Yankees, that would be Mr. Joey Gallo, 35th home run of the season. And for one, Jordan Montgomery, this was a very good start. He does give up a solo home run, but 12 strikeouts, 1 run given up in 5 2/3 innings. Going deep for the Baltimore Orioles, Ryan Mountcastle, 29th home run of the season. From there, Alberto Abreu, a scoreless inning. Clay Holmes gives up a run in 2 innings of work. Joey Rodriguez gives you an out of the bullpen, and Wandy Peralta in the 10th gives up the unearned run that starts on second base. And for the Baltimore Orioles, bullpen was lights out. Cole Sulzer, 2 scoreless innings. Connor Green, a scoreless inning. Dylan Tate, 2 scoreless innings. And Fernando Abad was not Abad in this one, as he was able to give you an out of the bullpen. The San Diego Padres have now won back-to-back games. They are now 11-21 in their last 32 games. We're going to be talking about this a little bit later with Dan Szymborski, but 7-4, they take down the San Francisco Giants. As for the Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr. was able to get his 39th home run of the season. That winds up coming off of Kevin Gausman, and for Gausman, it's been really shaky ever since the All-Star break, giving up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings. Zach Liddell, Camilo Duval both give you a scoreless inning. Tony Watson gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and then Sammy Long was able to go 1 1/3 innings scoreless. And for the Padres, both guy Nabil Krismet was able to give you 4 scoreless innings. That was a nice little find for this team, as Emilio Pagan and Tim L combined for an inning, giving up a run. Austin Adams, Danny Hudson, they combined for 2 innings. They give up 1 earned run apiece, and Mark Melanson gives up a run in his inning of work. But the Padres badly needed that win, and good gosh darn it, they were able to get it. The Chicago Cubs become the first team in the majors to blow out 3 leads of 7+ runs, as they were up 7-0 against the Philadelphia Phillies, and they lose 17-8. I've never seen anything like it, where the Cubs have blown 3 leads of at least 6 runs. As for the Cubs, they were able to get a pair of home runs of their own. Matt Duffy, his 3rd home run of the season, that comes off of J.D. Hammer, and Wilson Contreras later on in the game goes deep off of Hector Neris, 19th home run of the season. But Kyle Hendricks, not a good day for him, giving up 7 runs in 3 2/3 innings. Michael Rucker, 1 1/3 innings scoreless, but then Manuel Rodriguez gives up 3 unearned runs in 2/3 of an inning, as he was hurt by his own fielding error. Tommy Nance gives up 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Rex Brothers, oh brothers, he winds up giving up a home run to Bryce Harper, and Bryce Harper, by the way, 17 home runs now since the beginning of the month of August. That is number 33 on the campaign for him. And also for the Chicago Cubs, you wind up having Dale Maples give up 2 runs in an inning. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, it was a bullpen game, as J.D. Hammer got hammered, giving up 5 runs while getting just 1 out. But you wind up having Bailey Falter give you a scoreless inning. Ramon Rosso and Cam Bedrosian, 1 1/3 inning scoreless apiece from both of those. Matt, give me some more. You need some more out of him, giving up 2 runs in an inning. Hector Neris gives up 1 run over the course of his 2 innings. And then you wind up getting 2 scoreless innings out of Adonis Medina. So the Phillies maintain pace out there in the National League wild card, maintaining their lead in the AL East. That'd be the Tampa Bay Rays. 5-2, they wind up taking down the Detroit Tigers, as Tyler Alexander gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned over the course of 5 2/3 innings, and he did give up a home run, as going deep off of him. That'd be Yendy Diaz, 11th home run of the season. Then Mike Zunino would be able to get his 31st home run of the season. That would come off of Drew Carlton, who gives up that solo home run, gets just 1 out of the bullpen. From there, Ian Kroll along with Jason Foley both give you a scoreless inning. And for the Tigers, got a pair of home runs of their own. Jamier Candelario, 15th home run of the campaign. Nico Goodrum, his 7th, as one of those comes off of Mr. N. Cedric Enns wound up having a opener come in for him, as he was a bulk guy, giving up 1 solo home run over the course of 4 innings. JT Chargois will give up a solo home run in his inning as well. But JP Fire Eisen, Pete Fairbanks, Adam Conley, all scoreless inning. And Lewis Head was the opener, giving you a scoreless inning. And the Houston Astros wrap things up with a massive performance against the Texas Rangers. 12-1 the final. Glenn Otto, another not so great start for him, as he winds up being a part of a spot in which the team gave up 7 runs in the 4th inning. He gave up all 7 of them, including a home run going deep for the Houston Astros. Mr. Carlos Correa's 23rd home run of the season. Chaz McCormick would get his 12th home run of the season out of Kobe Allard. He's so bad, Mr. Allard is, and he came out of the bullpen 3 2/3 innings, giving up 5 runs, all of which were earned. Dennis Santana along with Brett Martin combined for a scoreless inning. Josh Shorbridge gives you a scoreless inning, but Luis Garcia, a little bit of a surprise starter in this one. 5 1/3 innings, gives up 1 run. Yimi Garcia, 1 2/3 innings out of the bullpen. Scoreless. Phil Maton, Josh James, both give you a scoreless inning. And where does that leave us right now when it comes to Major League Baseball to date? We've seen a couple more unders and overs so far this year. 1,044 unders, 1,033 overs. If you're looking at favorites, hitting at a 59.4% rate. 1,285 and 879. Meanwhile, if you're looking at home teams, 1,080 and 1,005. So home teams winning at a clip of about 54%. But if you're looking over the last 7 days, overs have been quite profitable for you. 50 and 32. So 61% of games last 7 days have gone over favorites in this time span. 55 and 38 on home teams. Well, they're not doing so well. 44 and 49. Meanwhile, if you take a look over the last 30 days, favorites hitting at a clip of 59% at 230 and 160. Home teams, they have actually a losing record at 196 and 199. And overall, unders the last 30 days, 191 and 174. So 52.3% of games have gone under. So that's what we're seeing trend-wise in Major League Baseball, and that's what we wound up seeing on Thursday. Now let's take a look at this wild playoff picture and just the teams that might wind up playing spoiler in general with our good friend Dan Szymborski of FanGraphs. He's coming up next right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast with myself, Greg Peterson.
Greg is calling in a pinch hitter from the Overtime Network hotline.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Always great to be joined by this guest, as the man does a terrific job over there at FanGraphs. He does a great job just taking a look at the game of baseball day in and day out. He does a great job with his zip statistics, does a nice job of just being able to give an analytics view of baseball in general, as this is a man that does some work also with ESPN along with FanGraphs, as it is Dan Szymborski joining me on the podcast. You're able to follow him on Twitter at the letter D, and then his last name, Szymborski, that is spelled Szymborski. And Dan, it is great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Hey, Greg, how's it going today?
It is going tremendous, and well, it's going better for me than it is the San Diego Padres right now.
It's going better for most people than the San Diego Padres right now.
Yeah, really. I mean, if you're doing worse than the San Diego Padres right now, it has been a rough one. Going into their game Wednesday evening, 8-21 in their last 29 games. And what do you attribute all this to? Because I attribute a lot of this myself personally to the fact that they didn't wind up letting their starters go as deep into games early on during the season as they probably should have. But if you take a look, going into Wednesday, they had scored the fewest runs of any team in the National League since the beginning of the month of August. And it's just befuddling how this team has pretty much went down the baseball toilet recently.
Yeah, the offense has been a mess, but the big issue is there was kind of, some guesswork going into the 2021 season. How do you treat starting pitching after a very abbreviated 2020 season? The Padres kind of went with the idea of having a deep rotation. They didn't push and have the bullpen pick up innings and kind of pace it out over time. That doesn't seem to have worked. The bullpen looks very tired. Their best arms have thrown a lot of innings. Craig Stammen's like at 80 innings, somewhere around there now. Except for, Joe Musgrove, the pitching has struggled a bit. Blake Snell's come along. It was nice to see him, go deeper than he has been in a few games. There are issues there too. Yu Darvish had a pretty awful game the other day with all the home runs. Snell, who I just mentioned, is injured, so don't know what's going on with that. Their competition is not that fierce. I mean, no one's really afraid of the Cardinals or the Reds, but they also have the toughest schedule of any team. By zips, the Padres have a strength of schedule of 552, meaning their average opponent for the last couple weeks of the season is a 552 team, while both the Reds and the Cardinals were under 500 opponent-wise.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be a difficult climb for the San Diego Padres, and right now the best hope for them is that one of the Dodgers or the San Francisco Giants winds up just really being able to do a good job of putting distance between each other so that way they know their fate, because if they're having to go up against a Giants and a Dodgers team that both of these teams are within like 2-3 games of each other in the division, you know that both teams are going to do everything humanly possible to be able to avoid that, so they're not going to be catching any breaks there. Meanwhile, you described it with the St. Louis Cardinals. They don't necessarily have the world's easiest schedule, but at the same time, you still do have a couple games with the Chicago Cubs give you a little bit of a break. And for the Reds, I recognize that they haven't done the world's greatest job with the Pirates the last few days, but being able to get a couple games with the Buccos late in the season, that's something that you'll take all day long, and the Reds do have a very favorable schedule to be able to get that second wild card spot.
The Cardinals haven't been amazing. They've been good. They've been solid and stable the last couple months. And that might be enough, as the Reds have, been, let's just say, decidedly meh. Their bullpen is still a problem. The Padres, there is good news for the Padres, but it's just not 2021 news. But you look at their team for next year, this isn't a case of a team that's going to lose a lot of talent in free agency. Tommy Pham is a free agent, and then he's essentially the only significant contributor to the team that is a free agent after this season. So that is good news in a way, even if it's depressing that we're talking about 2022 instead of 2021. I mean, they're not dead yet. They're still in the race, but you just don't feel good right now.
Yep, and when it comes to this Padres team as well, it is going to be probably beneficial that you're going to have Fernando Tatis Jr. at 100%, as he's had his shoulder pop out of place like 5 times this year. So certainly probably want to be having a little bit less question mark there, as we do have Dan Szymborski joining me on the podcast. And Dan, when I take a look at some of these weekend series, you do have quite a few series between teams that are both in the race versus teams that, well, they are certainly out of it. But I do think that it is going to be intriguing to see how the Atlanta Braves wind up doing against the San Francisco Giants, because it does feel like the Braves have put a little bit of distance between themselves and the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Mets. And the Atlanta Braves are a bunch in which I thought that when Ronald Acuna Jr. wound up going out of the fold, that it was going to be curtains for them, but they've done a good job of being able to have some of their starters be able to step up. You've got Charlie Morton, who has been amazing on the road, who's going to be going on the bump on Friday. And I take a look at this Braves team, and I certainly think that when it comes to the National League teams, of the ones that are expected to make the postseason, aside from that second wild card, they certainly are the weakest of the division winners, but got to give them a lot of credit for the way that they've responded the second half of the season.
Yeah, I won't lie. I was also very pessimistic about their outlook after losing Ronald Acuna. I mean, they were around 500 at that point. This wasn't a team that was cruising with like an 8-game lead and then lost Acuna, and then you hope they hold on. They were behind, and then they lost their best player. Now, losing Acuna still hurts. People tend to exaggerate the effect a single player has on a team. Just because they lost Acuna and they played well doesn't mean it didn't hurt, because it quite obviously did. But they've done such a good job kind of filling the outfield around it. They essentially have a new outfield since the start of the season. You started the season with, you had Ozuna, who you don't have right now. They had Acuna. Now they have Soler and Peterson and Duvall and Rosario. But in outfield that they kind of just had to make up on the fly by the trade deadline. I thought there might have been a chance that they hadn't kept winning games, that they might have even traded Peterson again at the trade deadline, kind of like the Jaime Garcia swap several years ago. I don't remember what year that was. But I digress. They are probably the weakest of the division winners. But the thing about October baseball is a sport that has the closest difference between a great team and a good team. And a good team will beat a great team a lot. It's not like a number 1 seed versus number 8 seed in the NBA, where the number 8 seed is usually dead in the water. The Braves have a real chance. They just have to get to October. And given that their competition isn't that scary by any means, that's where they're going to go. And they're not going to have to get in by a 1-game wild card play-in like probably the Dodgers and then the other wild card will. So you have to like where the Braves are now, especially compared to where they were 2 months ago.
And with Jaime Garcia, he wound up being shifted twice in the 2017 season. He wound up playing for 3 different teams that season, so he was certainly getting passed around like a basket of breadsticks that season. And then the next year would wind up playing for 2 different teams as well. So he was donning a lot of different uniforms that season, and a lot of guys have donned a lot of different uniforms. Are the guys currently on the New York Yankees? As taking a look at the American League wildcard on, this one is really intriguing. The Boston Red Sox and Seattle Mariners just wound up wrapping up their series out there in Seattle. So now you've got pretty much a mad chase for, at this point, both of these wildcard spots, because I think we'd both be in agreement. That massive 13, 14-game win streak that the New York Yankees wound up pulling off a couple weeks ago, there was a little bit of luck involved. That was clearly shown, and the Yankees, no question, they were able to get some wins over the Baltimore Orioles. That's always a little bit of a confidence booster for you. But when you take a look at the race for, I'm not even going to just say the second wildcard spot, but both of these wildcard spots, how do you think this one's going to wind up shaking out? Because with the Yankees, they do have a schedule in which, towards the back half, with playing series against the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, I think that these are going to be the series that really wind up deciding it, because though the Seattle Mariners have just hung around, I do think that eventually it is going to catch up with them, even if it is very late. And, well, regression probably should have already hit the Seattle Mariners like 50 games ago.
Yeah, the Mariners have had a great run, but they're kind of up against the calendar a bit at this point, and they're up against math. What makes it especially hard is because they're behind 3 teams, not 2 teams. As we're discussing, they're 3 games behind a wild card spot, a 3-way tie right now between the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox. And 3 games is not a lot, but 3 games against 3 teams, when you have to beat 2 of them, that's a pretty big deal, because what happens is every time the Yankees and the Blue Jays and the Red Sox play each other over the next 2 weeks, they do play each other. That's not really a great opportunity to catch up, because you'll have essentially 1.5 of those 3 teams win when they're playing each other. That's kind of a problem for both the Mariners and the A's. They really need to catch up quickly. They do not have a lot of time, and they can't count on a team collapsing in front of them, because a team that collapses, the Red Sox collapsed, you still have the other 2 teams to deal with. And since the Red Sox do play the Yankees, if the Red Sox collapse, that means the Yankees probably won a few more games. So I really think it's going to be 2 of the AL East contenders. It's a really fun race, probably a little nail biting if you're one of the 3 teams. I'm an Orioles fan, so it's not that tense.
They've been out of it for a little bit, but
a little bit. You look at the games behind, you see like 9, 43.
Well, hey, at least you aren't as far behind as the Arizona Diamondbacks have been all year long in that NOS. It's like, congratulations to the Diamondbacks. You are 43 games back of second place.
But they're farther behind than their win total.
Oh, that is absolutely... Yeah, they are. They're 48 games back as we're talking right now in the NOS, and they've got 47 wins. That's absolutely tremendous, as we do have Dan Szymborski of FanGraphs here to be on the podcast. I haven't seen that too many times, and haven't seen too much of this either. I was talking about the Mariners and how they're going to be up against it trying to get into the postseason. I do not like the outlook of the Oakland A's right now, because going into Wednesday, they had the second worst bullpen ERA over the last 30 days in all of baseball. The only team that's worse, your Baltimore Orioles, who in that time had a 70 ERA, so it's not necessarily great. But you take a look at the Oakland A's coming down the stretch. They're going to have the LA Angels this weekend, and I feel like these are going to be some must-win games for them, because the Angels have been terrible on offense ever since the All-Star break. And then they've got a pair of series with the Seattle Mariners and a pair of series against the Houston Astros. So I take a look at the Oakland A's, and I really think that at minimum 2 of 3 is going to be necessary this weekend.
Yeah, after you get to the Angels series, it's all Mariners and Astros final 13 games this season. And I think that if either the A's or Mariners are going to make the playoffs, one of the teams is probably going to have to nearly sweep the other. They need to get, that barrel of wins and crush the other team out of contention. And the Astros aren't going to be in any inclination to go easy on the A's. They've had some pretty good battles in recent years. Both teams, the A's and Mariners, have given a valiant effort this year, but I think they're just going to come up short.
I agree with you. I do think that they are certainly going to be up against it. And when you take a look at the teams that they are out of the postseason on, because we were joking about a couple of them, but is there a team or two that you think is actually playing some good baseball right now and could play a little bit of a spoiler moving forward? Because the one team I've really been taking a look at is the Detroit Tigers. They played very well a few days ago against the Milwaukee Brewers, being able to take a pair in that series. You can tell that while many of these other teams are building for the future, Tigers are certainly doing that, but at the same time, they're getting wins along the way. Is there another team or two that you think is playing a little bit better than their record might indicate that they should be at this time of year?
I might be a little optimistic, but I kind of feel like the Twins are one of those teams that could be a fun spoiler. They won 3 of 4 against the Indians. They do play Toronto 7 more games, so it would be kind of fun to see them show a little bit of vim and vigor, we'll say. At this point, teams are prioritizing looking at next year more than shutting down a rival, as fun as that can be at times. Even in the Orioles' bad seasons, like in 1988, when I was young, it was still fun that they were occasionally playing the spoiler in the late season, despite being a really awful team. The Rangers have played some okay-ish baseball lately, and they do have some games against the Astros left. I think they play the Yankees. It's fun to see, but again, they're focused on future seasons, not this one.
And they also do have a 4-game set against the Baltimore Orioles, which, good grief.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching that.
You're going to have a combined 180 losses when they wind up meeting next week in that series. Good grief. That is going to be a little bit unsightly. it's much better to be able to take a look at the work of Dan Szymborski of FanGraphs rather than a Rangers versus Baltimore Orioles series. And Dan, I know you're doing some terrific work over there with FanGraphs. You do some work occasionally with ESPN as well, and you just do a great job of keeping your finger on the pulse of baseball in general. So love to get people at home know what you've got going on right now and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, this week, I've done some updates on Gleyber Torres' projections, how his season has affected the long-term outlook. I've done some translations, some Cuban translations for Jose Abreu and Yuli Gurriel. Actually, I even threw in some Ichiro translations from Japan, even though it wasn't really the topic of the article. I'm working on getting minor league translations ready for this season. Recalibrated minor leagues have kind of thrown a monkey wrench, which have given me additional work, which I never quite appreciate. But you can always find me on FanGraphs or D. Szymborski on Twitter.
And Dan does a terrific job just looking at so many different things when it comes to baseball, and it is always a pleasure to be able to get him on this podcast. So big thanks to Dan for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you a signed total on every game on the betting board for this Friday, and a little something like call, touch 'em all.
Welcome back to the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson as we're off to a quality start, and now it's time to walk it off in a grand fashion.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Podcast. Myself, Greg Peterson. Great to have Dan Szymborski on the podcast today. Always entertaining and fun to be able to get him aboard. Does a great job looking at baseball analytics and just a little bit of everything baseball. So big thanks to him. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you a signed total on every game on the betting board for this Friday, and a little something like call, touch 'em all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch 'em all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at GR_D1. Numbers might move a little bit more than normal. I had to pre-record this a little bit since I'm going to be on a plane to Minnesota when you wind up hearing this. So, recorded this in Las Vegas, uploaded in Minnesota, so got a lot of moving parts there, but with that said, going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order as per usual. That's where we go. National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games are going to be at the bottom. And let's waste no time and get started with 951, 952 on the betting board. The Colorado Rockies hit the road to face off against the Washington Nationals. Josiah Gray is going to be going for the Nats. Anaman Marquez is going to be going for the Rockies. Rockies did not expect to have Marquez going on the mound, so this game has no numbers as the Rockies game yesterday wound up getting rained out. But at the book of Greg Peterson, we've got Germán Marquez listed as a minus 137 favorite, and total on this game is 8.6 for me. So in that for lore, I'm going to be taking a look at the over, and a 9 or higher, I'm going to be taking a look at the under with Germán Marquez. Throughout his career, he's got an ERA about a point lower on the road than he does at home, but this year it's been the exact opposite. On the road, right around a 4.93 ERA, a 3.16 ERA at home. On the road, has given up 11 home runs in 73 innings, and opponents throwing at 269. Meanwhile, opponents throwing at 202 off of him, and less than a home run per 9 for him. Meanwhile, you take a look at Josiah Gray, and got off to a really good start throughout his career with the Washington Nationals, and then things wound up progressing. 3 runs or fewer in his first 5 starts. In his last 3 starts, he's given up 5+ in every one of them, and he's been getting tattooed recently. He's given up a grand total of 13 home runs in 40 innings with the Washington Nationals. That's not necessarily too terrific. The walks are starting to climb up there a little bit as well, as he's given up just under 4.5 walks per 9 innings. You take a look at this Nationals lineup, and you do have a little bit of firepower out there. Lane Thomas, ever since coming over from the St. Louis Cardinals, is hitting above a 300. Alcides Escobar hitting about a 280, and then got a pair of guys in Josh Bell and Juan Soto, both have 26+ home runs. For Soto, right around a 450 on base. It's insane, and Bell's been able to hit right around a 255. Jody Mercer is fresh off the injured list. He and Yadier Hernandez both hitting between a 270 and 280. So you've actually got a halfway decent lineup. Kyle Finnegan has been able to do a good job out of the bullpen, along with Ryan Harper. And for the Rockies, their main bugaboo is their bullpen, but having the rain out yesterday, that saves guys like a Robert Stevenson, someone like a Ulysses Chacin, guys that have been able to come through for you. And for the Rockies, going into this road swing, they had the worst batting average on the road of any team in baseball, but they've been able to pick things up a little bit. Trevor Story was hitting right around the Mendoza line for much of the year on the road. He's been able to do a better job. CJ Cron, in the last 2 road trips, he's had a combined 7 home runs in these road swings, so that's been really rock solid. Even someone like Jonathan Daza starting to give you a little bit of something. So in this spot, setting the Rockies more around a minus 137 favorite, and like I said, an 8.5 or lower, going to be taking a look at the over. A 9 or higher, going to be taking a look at the under. 953, 954 on the betting board. The Philadelphia Phillies hit the road to face off against the New York Mets. Taijuan Walker is going to be going for the Metropolitans. Meanwhile, Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler is going to be going for the Phils. Phillies find themselves anywhere between minus 130 and minus 141 favorites. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Metropolitans, anywhere between plus 115 and plus 130 is your price. We're seeing a straight 8 out there on the total. That under is minus 135 and the over is plus 115. Seeing mostly 7.5, so under is between minus 110 and minus 115. The over is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110, and I do think that this is a pretty low total. Too low in my opinion, because you take a look at Taijuan Walker, and during the first part of the year, he was doing a great job of not allowing the deep ball. He gave up 6 home runs over the course of his first 17 starts. You take a look at his last 2 appearances, and well, he's now given up 16 home runs in that time span, and he's gotten shelled in his last 3 starts. He's given up at least 3 runs in every one of them. As a matter of fact, he has given up at least 3 runs in all but one of his last 7 appearances. So, we could actually go a little bit further. He's given up at least 3 runs in all but one out of his last 9 appearances. Yeah, needless to say, it's not going well for him. Meanwhile, Zach Wheeland and Dylan Wheeler, he wasn't wheeling and dealing towards the end of August, as during the month of August, he wound up having an ERA hovering right around 5. It was a little bit unsightly for him. He had given up really 4+ runs in something like 5 out of 7 starts for him, but you take a look at his first 2 starts here in the month of September. This is a Zach Wheeland and Dylan Wheeler that we all know and love, giving up 1 run in 12 2/3 innings. It looks like he is back in full force now with the Phillies. They did wind up having to use a bullpen game yesterday, so that is a little bit of something that is going to be burning out this bullpen. Then again, you're not really betting on the Phillies in this case because they've got a great bullpen. Archie Bradley has not been able to do well for you. They did wind up using Cam Bedrosian as the opener. He entered into yesterday with a 7 ERA, and Yel De Los Santos was so bad that they wound up DFAing him. But for the Phillies, what you do have is Bryce Harper. 16 home runs ever since the beginning of the month of August, and he's hitting right around at 310. He has been amazing. Gene Segura hitting at 295. You've got JT Realmuto hitting right around at 265. Odubel Herrera has been able to give you a tad bit of something. Freddie Galvis, both in between a 245 to 255. You need Andrew McCutchen, Brad Miller, Didi Gregorius to pick it up, only between about a 215 to a 230. But for McCutchen, 335 on base, 24 bombs. And then you take a look at the flip side for the Metropolitans, and you got 2 guys that are doing a good job of being able to put bat to ball. Javi Baez, Pete Alonso, both of these guys, 30+ home runs. Both of these guys hitting in the realm of about a 255 to a 265, along Jonathan VR hitting right around 260 as well. Then you got Jeff McNeil. He's hitting more in the neighborhood of about a 250, but Michael Conforto, Kevin Pillar, Francisco Lindor, you just see more out of these guys. They're in between about a 220 to a 230. It's been tough with this team dealing with an injury to Dom Smith as well. Now, I will say for the Mets, bullpen has been really a constant for the team for much of the year, but we are noticing a little bit of regression. Aaron Loop has had a sub-1.5 ERA all season long. Seth Lugo seems to be starting to tire out a little bit. Miguel Castro has his ERA hovering right around a 3.5. He's been able to do a relatively solid job, but certainly it feels like wheels are starting to fall off a little bit for them there. When it comes to the Phillies, was willing to lay up to a minus 133 with them, so seeing the minus 130, I'm going to be taking a shot here on the Philadelphia Phillies. And when it comes to the total, because Walker is giving up bombs, set this total at 8.3, so going to be going over along with the Phillies. 955, 956 on the betting board. You got the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they're going to be walking the plank to Miami to face off against the Marlins. With the Marlins, you've got Eliezer Hernandez taking the mound for them. Meanwhile, one William Caro is going to be going for the Buccos. The Buccos are finding themselves anywhere between plus 130 and plus 138 underdogs. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Fish, anywhere between minus 141 and minus 155. The 7.5 to 8 is your total. On the 8, unders anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 105. 7.5 total as over juice of minus 125. And the under is plus 105. For Hernandez, he hasn't necessarily done a whole heck of a lot great. He hasn't done a whole heck of a lot terrible, but he has been hit hard so far this year. In 37 innings, he has given up 9 home runs, so that is a little bit of an issue. He's also only given up 7 walks, so fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings. Meanwhile, you take a look at William Crowe, and he's given up right around 4.5 walks per 9 innings. And his home runs per 9 rate, that is above 2, so that has not been good to say the least. You take a look at Crowe, and on the road, he has a 7.04 ERA. Now, good news is he's pitching in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark in Miami, and that's big because he's given up 2.6 home runs per 9 innings on the road, and opponents throwing at 307 off of him. You take a look at this Miami Marlins bunch, and not having Jesus Aguilar, that's certainly taking a toll. They don't have a single guy that has more than 50 RBI in the lineup, but Jesus Sanchez has 8 home runs over the last 3 days for this team. That's relatively solid. He, Jorge Alfaro, Mangolia Sierra, Lewis Brinson, all these guys are in between a 232 and a 244. You need to get a little bit more out of guys like Izan Diaz, Lewin Diaz, Eddie Alvarez. You're able to throw in there Sandy Leon. These guys are hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, but Miguel Rojas is hitting a 270 for this bunch. Brian De La Cruz, he's hitting a 335 in the bullpen, with guys like Dylan Floro, Richard Blyer, guys like this have been able to do a good job. Anthony Bender still has a sub-3 ERA, and for the Pittsburgh Pirates, David Bedard is on the injured list along Kyle Crick, so that means that you've got Jason Shreve, Chris Strand's able to give you a little bit of something, and then the rest of this bullpen is quite a bit of a fade. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they did have to dive deep into their bullpen yesterday as they wound up having to use Connor Overton as a starter. He wound up only being able to give the team 3 innings. And you take a look at this lineup, Yoshi Satsugo has been able to give the team 7 home runs in 26 games. He's been able to hit well above a 260 ever since coming into the fold. You've got Ben Gamble, who's hitting right around a 255 along Cabrian Hayes. So these guys have been solid. And then you got Colin Miranda hitting 270, Brian Reynolds, a 300 batting average. He's the only guy currently in this lineup that has a double-digit amount of homers. And then you got guys like Michael Perez, Hoy Park, Kaye Tom, list goes on and on of guys that are hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200, so that is a little bit stinky for this team. And I do take a look at this spot. I do think that the Miami Marlins should be a favorite and a relatively good one. I wound up saying them right around a minus 151 personally. If you're taking a look at the run line of the Fish, you're finding that at a plus 135. With the way that William Crowe gives up bombs and the way that this bullpen is depleted, I'm going to be taking a look at that run line. I was willing to take it at a plus 125 or greater. Also wound up saying the solid at 8.7. I recognize that the ballpark is pitcher friendly, but both of these guys are giving up homers. So we're going to be going over along with the Fish on the run line. 957, 958 on the betting where the LA Dodgers hit the road face off against the Cincinnati Reds. We are on to Cincinnati, and they're on to Luis Castillo getting the start for them. Meanwhile, Walker Buehler is going to be on the mound for the Dodgers. Dodgers between minus 156 and minus 170 favorites. Meanwhile, with the Redlegs, anywhere between plus 144 and plus 150 is your price. 8 to 8.5 is your total on the 8. Overs between minus 115 and minus 120. Unders anywhere between even at plus 105 on the 8.5. Unders minus 120, and the over is even. And for Walker Buehler, he did wind up getting lit up in a start about a week and a half ago against the San Francisco Giants, but really past that, this guy's been lights out, giving up 3 runs or fewer in 17 out of his last 18 starts, and he has been a really good on the road. 252 road ERA in 12 road starts. He's given up 5 home runs in 75 innings, and opponents are hitting a $1.93 off of him. That is good. And for Luis Castillo, he's got a lifetime ERA, a 1.5 lower at home than he does on the road, and that's held up this year. 3.43 home ERA, 5.08 road ERA. He's given up just 5 home runs in 86 and 2/3 innings in Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, he has given up right around 3.6 walks per 9 innings, but has been able to do a good job of being able to get swings and misses north of 10 punch-outs per 9 innings. And you take a look at this Reds team, and the offense is ailing a little bit. They've been without Jesse Winker for quite a while. They've been dealing with Taylor Naquin being in and out of the fold as well, so that has certainly hurt them. But you do have a guy in Tyler Stevenson who's hitting at 280 for this bunch. I like what I'm seeing out of Mr. Schrock, Max Schrock, who's been able to hit a 330. Jonathan India, 20 home runs at the leadoff spot, 375 on base. Joey Votto, Nick Castellanos, both guys have right around a 365 on base of their own. Both of these guys have gone deep at least 29 times apiece. Joey Votto, I believe, is still leading the National League in home runs ever since the All-Star break. And for the bullpen, is looking a little bit better as Luis Cessa has been able to give this team some innings. Did not wind up getting used up yesterday. Now Brad Brock has been a hot mess for this team ever since coming off the injured list, but you've also been able to get a little bit of something even out of a guy like a Tony Santillan, who wound up being a starter a little bit earlier during the year. So these guys have been able to come through for you. Michael Givens wound up getting used up yesterday. And for the Dodgers, this team has the second best bullpen ERA of the second half of the season. So these guys that don't necessarily have big names like Phil Bickford and Alex Vesia, they've actually really been able to come through for this team. Pursuit Gratterall has a sub-3 ERA over the last 30 days. Corey Knebel's come off the injured list. He's been able to do a good job. And then you just take a look at this LA Dodgers lineup, and my goodness gracious, you've got a lot of guys with north of 20 home runs so far this year, as you've got Chris Taylor, Mookie Betts, Trey Turner down for what, Justin Turner down for what, Will Smith, Max Muncy. And with all these guys, they're all hitting at least at 255. It has been absolutely amazing. Heck, Albert Pujols has 12 home runs and is hitting at 260 as a Dodger so far this year. AJ Pollock, whenever he's been out there, I know that he's been injured. He's been able to do a relatively solid job. And then you just take a look at, in general, the Cincinnati Reds team. They have been ailing a little bit as well, so that is something that is being taken into account with the Dodgers. I was willing to lay on the money line with them, about a minus 175. If you're taking a look at the run line in this spot, you're finding that anywhere between even money and minus 105. I was willing to lay up to about a minus 115 in this spot, so going to be taking the Dodgers. Also keep in mind with the Dodgers, they've only played 6 out of their last 28 games over the total, so we are seeing the total anywhere between an 8 and an 8.5. I did personally wind up saying the total at 8.3. I do think that we're going to see a couple more overs in some of these Dodgers games just with that bullpen in general. So I'm going to be taking an 8 over, and I'm going to be taking the run line of the Dodgers. 959, 960 on the betting board. The Chicago Cubs hit the road to face off against the Milwaukee Brewers. Adrian, don't call me Dookie Howser, is going to be going for the Brew Crew. Meanwhile, Zach Davies on the mound for the Cubs. The Cubs are finding themselves as sizable underdogs, and rightfully so, as they are anywhere in the neighborhood of between a plus 184 and a plus 193. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Brew Crew, you're going to be getting them in between minus 207 and minus 225. 9 is your total. Over and under are both at minus 110. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, Adrian Hauser, about a week and a half ago, wound up throwing the first complete shutout for this game since Kyle Loesch in 2014. That's a blast from the past, kids, but you take a look at what Hauser has been able to do recently, and he has looked really good ever since the beginning of the month of July. This is a man whose ERA is hovering right around about a 2.6-ish. He has been able to do a solid job at home so far this year. A 2.54 home ERA, 3.96 road ERA, has given up 6 home runs over the course of 63 and 2/3 innings at home, so he's been able to do a good job of limiting the hard contact opponents, starting at 2-9 off of them now with the Cubs. The lineup has actually not been too bad for this team. Frank Schwindel has 8 home runs in the last 3 weeks for this team, and he's hitting at 335 now. Got a lot of guys hitting a 225 or lower. Wilson Contreras, Ian Happ, Sergio Alcantara, both of the row mines you're able to even throw in there. Someone like a David Bodie as well. So these guys have certainly been rough. But what I will say for Ian Happ is that he's got 11 home runs ever since the beginning of the month of August. He's really been able to pick it up. Patrick Wisdom's hitting just at 237, and he's dried up a little bit with the deep ball, but still 26 home runs so far this year. He's had just one of them in the last 15 days, but certainly has been able to do a solid job as a younger prospect for this Cubs team. Now with the Cubs, the bullpen is not looking as good as it did at the beginning of the year. Ryan Tepera, Andrew Chafin, Craig Kimbrell, these guys are all in the fold, so that means that you get Michael Rucker, Manuel Rodriguez, Adam Morgan, guys like this. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, Jake Cousins has a sub-2 ERA, Hunter Strickland, Brad Boxberg have been great. You've got Devin Williams and Josh Hader doing a tremendous job, but I will say, bats have really been drying up for this team. The injury to Willie Adames has really been affecting them, but you still do have quite a few guys in between. I would say about a 250 to a 265, Christian Yelich, Eduardo Escobar, Lorenzo Cain, Jace Peterson. These guys have been able to do a relatively solid job for you whenever Omar Narvaez is out there. He's hitting a 280. Colton Wong has been able to hit a 275, so got quite a few guys being able to get on base for you. And for Luis Urias, he's hitting about a 250, 20 home runs for him, so that has been good for this team. I do think that the Brewers are going to be able to get right in this spot against a guy in Zach Davies that used to pitch for the Brewers, so he's going to have a little bit of revenge on the mind, but I don't think he's going to be able to get it. You just take a look at the way that he's pitched this year, and he has been better on the road. 4.58 road ERA, 5.99 home ERA, but he has given up 24 home runs so far this year in 141 and 2/3 innings, so just below 2 home runs per 9. Opponents overall hitting a 273 off of him, and the walks. On the road, he is giving up a right around 5 walks per 9 innings. That is just not good, to say the least. With the Brewers, I was willing to lay a pretty hefty price on them. I want to make them minus 211 on the money line. If you're taking a look at the run line, you're finding that with the Brewers right around a minus 110 to a minus 115. I was willing to lay more like a minus 125, so we're going to be taking that. Also want to setting the total at 9.5, as I think that Davies gets destroyed, so taking the over along the Brewers on the run line. 961, 962 on the betting board. The Slam Diego Padres hit the road to face off against the St. Louis Cardinals. I literally thought I was looking at a typo when I saw this, but Vince Velasquez takes them out for the San Diego Padres. Meanwhile, Miles Michaelis is going to be on the pump for the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals are anywhere between minus 131 and minus 145 favorites. Meanwhile, the Padres find themselves anywhere between plus 121 and plus 129. 9 is your total. The over and the under are both at minus 110. Good grief. Why are we picking up Vince Velasquez to make a start? I mean, this is just terrible. He was so bad that he got DFA'd by the Philadelphia Phillies, and here he is making a start for the San Diego Padres. I mean, my gosh. Now, the good news for the Padres is that they played better the last 48 hours, but good grief. The last time that Vince Velasquez wound up hitting the mound, you have to go back to July 30th. He wound up giving up 5 runs in 2 innings against the Pittsburgh Pirates, and in the start before that, he gave up 6 runs in 2 1/3 innings against the Atlanta Braves. That's anti-air quotes here, bolstering the lineup for this team, and whenever he pitched away from Philadelphia, a 7.05 ERA so far this year, with 11 homers given up in 37 innings. I mean, Miles Michaelis has not been the Mona Lisa Vito of pitching. He's given up at least 3 runs in each out of his last 4 starts, but gosh, that is not good to say the least. Now, for the San Diego Padres, entering into yesterday, they were scoring the fewest runs per game of any team in the National League ever since the beginning of the month of August, and they do seem to be fighting a little bit more. Fernando Tatis Jr., he's got 39 home runs so far this year. He's hitting right around a 290. You've had Adam Frazier hit above a 300 this year, but ever since coming over to the Padres, it's more like a 245. Trent Grisham, he's seen his batting average regress. Tommy Pham, Jurickson Profar, all in between a 230 and 240, but what I will say, all these guys have at least a 320 on base as well, so you've had a little bit of something there. Eric Hosmer, Manny Machado, Austin Supernola, all in between about a 260 to a 275 themselves, so they had a little bit of something there. But with the Padres, they had to go with the bullpen game yesterday. They were very lucky that Nabel Krismet was able to give them 4 innings, but Pierce Johnson, Austin Adams, both of these guys wound up getting used. Craig Salmon has been just used time and time again this year for the team, and I am expecting zero length here from Mr. Velasquez. Meanwhile, I don't expect a lot out of Michaelis either, but at the same time, even though Genesis Cabrera has really been regressing, you have noticed that Alex Reyes has been able to pick it up a little bit recently. Cody Whitley has right around a 3.3 ERA. TJ McFarland has been able to give this team some good innings as well. I do think that this is a spot in which we are going to see a little bit of a surprisingly lower game. I think that Vince Velasquez has a good possibility of going out there and giving you a couple okay innings. With that said, this is a total in which I want to personally setting at an 8.7, so we're going to be going under, but not by a lot, and this is a case in which I want to setting the St. Louis Cardinals as a minus 150 favorite. I do think that there's a chance that we do wind up seeing a little bit of a one-run game. We are seeing this run line right around a plus 130, but I would rather take the insurance of just, if this game winds up falling on one run, just being able to get that W. So, going to be taking the Cardinals on the money line, and I'm going to be taking this total under 963, 964 on the betting board as my New York Post play today, as the Atlanta Braves hit the road face-off against the San Francisco Giants. Logan Webb is going to be going for the Giants. Ian Anderson is on the bump for the Bravos. The Braves are finding themselves anywhere between a plus 125 and plus 134 underdog. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the Yankees, anywhere between minus 142 and minus 145, 8 to 7.5 is your total. On the 7.5, over is minus 120, and the under is even. On the 8, over and under, anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115. New York Post play of the day is going to be the under. I set the total at a 6.9. You take a look at Ian Anderson, and he has been very consistent home to road. Right around a 3.64 ERA on the road, a 3.58 ERA at home. So what you see is what you get with him. He's done a good job of being able to keep down the deep ball, giving up just under a home run per 9 innings. The walks per 9, that has been a little bit unsightly this year, giving up right around 3.7 walks per 9 innings. But take a look at Logan Webb, and the Giants are 15-1 in his last 16 starts. He's allowed more than 3 runs just once. That wound up coming in Wrigley Field against the Chicago Cubs. I believe that the wind was blowing out that day. And when you take a look at Logan Webb, he's just done a good job of being able to keep down the hard contact in general. He's given up 1 home run in his last 5 starts. It has been absolutely amazing. This is a guy that for the year, you just take a look at it, and he has been absolutely amazing at home. A .66 ERA in San Francisco, 10 total pitching appearances. He's given up 4 home runs in 54 and a third innings, and overall home and road, 9 bombs given up in 125 and a third innings. Just absolutely magnificent. He's backed up by a bullpen of the San Francisco Giants that is one of the best in baseball. You've had Jarlin Garcia really be able to step up for this team. As a matter of fact, going into yesterday, number 1 bullpen ERA in all baseball. Tony Watson, since coming over from the LA Angels, has been solid. Dominique Leon, who's made a couple starts in the bullpen games, he's been able to do a good job. Jose Alvarez has been able to give you a whole lot of something. And then you take a look at the San Francisco Giants team, and you've just got a whole bunch of guys that are giving you 15-plus home runs so far this year. Lamonte Wade, Darren Ruff, Chris Bryant, Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt. Evan Longoria is not in that full, but Evan Longoria, ever since coming back, has been solid, hitting right around 290. Mike Yastrzemski has been good for the team. They got Wilmer Flores back at the full, Buster Posey. So this team is just stockpiled with bats. And then you take a look at the Atlanta Braves, and you got a lot of firepower with this team as well. Adam Duvall, north of 30 home runs so far this year. Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, along with Austin Riley, all between 28 and 30 home runs with Freeman and Riley. Both of these guys hitting north of a 295. Dansby Swanson, 26 home runs. So you've got a lot of guys doing a great job for this team. And then Ode Soler, how about him? He's got like 15 home runs ever since the beginning of the month of July, so he's been able to heat up in a very big way ever since getting to Atlanta, hitting about a 280. And then for the Atlanta Braves, their bullpen has been league average overall this year, but if you take a look ever since the All-Star break, they are in the top 6 in baseball with regards to bullpen ERA. Tyler Matzek has sub-2.5 ERA in this time span. You've been able to get some good innings out of even someone like a Richard Rodriguez and an Edgar Santana. We've noticed even someone like a Jesse Chavez has been able to step up for this bunch as well. So the New York Post play of the day here here is going to be the under. If you're taking a look at the money line, wound up saying the San Francisco Giants right around a minus 160. With the run line, you're getting this right around a plus 140 with the San Francisco Giants. I do think that's a little bit lower scoring, but at the same time, the way that Logan Webb is rolling, I'm willing to take a shot here. I was willing to take anything above a plus 125. So taking that Giants run line and going to be going with the under with the New York Post play of the day. 965, 966 on the betting board. The New York Yankees are going to be playing us the Cleveland Indians. Zach Plesac going to be going for the Windians. Meanwhile, Corey Kaluba is going to be going for the Yankees. Yankees find themselves anywhere between minus 181 and minus $2. Meanwhile, plus price with the Indians anywhere between plus 163 and plus 171. 9.5 to 10 is your total. On the 10, the under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 125. Over is anywhere between minus 110 and plus 105. On the 9.5, over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And for Kaluba, ever since coming out the injured list, hasn't necessarily been lending a lot of length. It certainly has been a little bit of a rocky road for him so far this year. He winds up pitching that no-hitter, and really past that hasn't necessarily done a ton, though. I will say, has been much better at home than on the road. On the road, a 5 ERA, 2.79 home ERA. He's given up 3 home runs in 29 innings in Yankee Stadium. The big thing is walks, though. He has given up in Yankee Stadium right around 5 walks per 9 innings. Meanwhile, you take a look at Zach Plesac, and he's done a good job of being able to limit the walks overall this year, giving out right in the neighborhood about 2 walks per 9 innings. Just doesn't get any swings and misses. Nearly 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that's been a little bit rough. But you take a look at it, he's given up 200 runs or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts, and 3 runs or fewer in all 4 of them. He's given up a combined 5 walks and no home runs in his last 3 starts, and the team is now 3-1 in his last 4 starts. So that is something that you're able to build off of. And for the Cleveland Indians, bullpen has been relatively solid for this team. Emmanuel Clase has been one of the best relievers in all of baseball for this team. Blake Parker along with Brian Shaw. These guys are giving you some good innings. And then you take a look at the middle of the lineup. Franmil Reyes and Jose Ramirez. Both of these guys doing a great job of being able to go yard. Both of these guys, Harold Ramirez, Miles Straw, all in between about a 255 to a 270. And for Jose Ramirez, 33 home runs. Franmil Reyes, 29 bombs. You do have Bobby Bradley. Needs to pick it up with the batting average. And Oscar Mercado hitting between a 224 and a 232. And then you got Yu Chang, Austin Edges, Andres Jimenez, Owen Miller. All these guys hitting at 215 or lower. But Miles Straw has been able to do a solid job, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, hitting about a 270. Bradley Zimmer has been able to give you a tad bit of something as well. And then you take a look at the flip side, and you've got a Yankees team that they are starting to come into their own with regards to the bats. You've got a trio of guys that have given you at least 27 home runs so far this year in Giancarlo Stanton, along with Joey Gallo and Aaron Judge. For Gallo, now 35 home runs. I will say the batting average is a little bit low for him. Brett Gardner, Gary Sanchez, Kyle Higashioka, these guys are hitting at 225 or lower. Rude Adadar is in that full, but you have been able to get Anthony Rizzo, Gleyber Torres to give you a tad bit of something. These 2 guys are able to throw in their Luke Voit, Gio Urshela, in between about a 245 to a 260, so had a little bit of something there. And with the Yankees dealing with an injury to Jonathan Loaizaga in the bullpen is not necessarily ideal, but you take a look at Joey Rodriguez, and he's been able to pick it up recently. Wandy Peralta, after a little bit of a rough start to the year, he's been able to do a tad bit of something over the last 30 days. He's got closer to about a 3 ERA. Aroldis Chapman seems to be reining it in, still north of a 6 ERA since the middle of June, but still has been able to do a little bit better. But this is still a spot in which, with Corey Kluber, I am certainly not willing to lay this price. I was willing to take the Indians, getting at least a plus 160. Seeing them more around a plus 170, certainly going to be a take there. Also did wind up setting the total at a 9.7, so a little bit of a predicament here, but I'm going to wind up taking one of the 9.5s over to go along with the Cleveland Indians. 967, 968 on the betting board. The Minnesota Twins are going to be playing us to the Toronto Blue Jays. Hyun-Jin Ryu is going to be going for the Jays. Michael Pineda hopes to not be Michael Pineda for the Twins. The Twins are finding themselves anywhere between plus 172 and plus 190 underdogs. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at the Jays, anywhere between minus 201 and minus 210, with your total at 9. With the under, it's anywhere between minus 105, minus 110. Over is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. For Ryu, he has been getting uncharacteristically tattooed recently, and you've got a guy, Michael Pineda, that just hasn't seen the mound a lot recently. It's been a very strange year for him. For Mr. Pineda, he has given up much more of the deep ball than he has in past years. So far this year for Pineda, giving up right around 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but his walks per 9 is 1.8, strikeouts per 9, he's not necessarily getting a ton of them, but whenever he's taken the mound, he hasn't been too bad, giving up 200 runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 appearances, though they have been very sporadic to say the least, and he just, like I said, hasn't gotten a lot of strikeouts. Approximately 3 strikeouts in each out of his last 5 appearances, so you've got a whole lot of that going on. Meanwhile, you take a look at Mr. Ryu, and it has been very rough sledding for him recently. He's coming off a start in which he wound up giving up 7 runs while getting 7 outs against the Baltimore Orioles. That is not what you want, kids. He has given up now at least 3 runs in 5 out of his last 7 appearances, so that has been very rough for a guy that really has been the modicum of consistency, and it's not that he's given out a lot of walks or anything like that. His walks per 9 rate is right around 2, so he's done a solid job there. It's just been giving up the deep ball a little bit. Now giving up right around 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. Now I will say, whenever he's been at home, which that would be Toronto, Dunedin, what have you, 4.46 ERA compared to a 3.78 on the road, so that has been a little bit of something, and the good news is he's backed up by a lineup of a whole bunch of guys that are willing to mash. You've got a guy in Vlad Guerrero Jr., who's top of the list when it comes to the home run race. He, along with Shohei Ohtani and Salvador Perez, are going to have a nice run there as Guerrero is hitting right around 8.320 for this bunch. Marcus Semien, take a look at him, 270 batting average, 39 home runs so far this year, and you've got a lot of other guys doing a solid job of being able to reach base, like Teoscar Hernandez and Bo Bichette. Both of these guys, at least 24 home runs, both of these guys hitting at 290 plus. You've got Lourdes Gurriel, who's been hitting well above a 300 over the last 3 days. He has been white hot for the team, and George Springer, ever since coming off the injured list, it's been a little bit up and down, but you know that he's going to be able to find it. And then you take a look at the flip side and what you're going to be able to get out of the Minnesota Twins, and you've got an inconsistent lineup, to say the least. A lot of guys that are hitting a 225 or lower. Jake Cave, Max Kepler, and Drelton Simmons, Ben Roadfit, so list goes on and on there. Miguel Sano is someone that you're able to throw in there, but with Sano, he's got right around a 345 on base ever since the beginning of the month of August. He has been able to supply 28 home runs so far this year, so you give him some credit there, but even someone like a Brent Rooker and a Ryan Jeffers, both of these guys hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200 as well, but you do have a couple mashers, as I was alluding to a little bit earlier. Ode Polanco, 30 home runs, he's hitting at 275. Byron Buxton, since coming off the injured list, has been a hot mess, but Luis Ariz is hitting nearly a 300, and then you've got Josh Donaldson, 22 home runs. He's been able to provide a 345 on base, and for the Toronto Blue Jays, bullpen has been a little bit up and down. It seems like Adam Simber has been able to work out some of the kinks that he wound up having a few weeks ago. It looks like you're going to be able to get a little bit of something out of Jordan Romano as well, and then for the Minnesota Twins, Ode Alcala is someone that I have zero faith in whatsoever. You've actually had Luke Farrell do a solid job for this team so far this year. Danny Colombe, Ralph Garza Jr., a couple guys are under the radar, but you still have Alex Colome, who's a big giant waste of money, so very interesting spot here. I was willing to take the Twins as long as I was getting a plus 175 or greater, and we have gotten there on the Minnesota Twins, so going to be taking that plus price with the way that Ryu has been struggling, and also wound up setting this all at 9.3 because of the way that he has been struggling. So taking the over, and I'm going to be taking the Twins. 969, 970 on the betting board. No numbers currently up on this game as the Detroit Tigers hit the road to face off against the Tampa Bay Rays. Luis Patino is going to be going for the Rays. Casey Mize is going to be going for the Tigers. I think that the bookmakers were deciding whether or not the Rays were going to be using an opener or not, which is why this game is presently off the board. But at the book day, Greg Peterson, the Rays are a minus 144 favorite, plus 134 on the run line. I said this all at an 8.7, so in that for lore, I'm going to be taking a look at the over 9 or higher. I'd be taking a look at the under. Would be making the Tigers a little bit shorter in this spot, but we've noticed that Casey Mize has been pretty much used as like an opener du jour recently. His last 2 starts, they combined 5 innings, and not necessarily because he's gotten tattooed. He's given up a combined 3 runs in these last 5 innings, giving up no home runs and 1 walk. So it's just one of these cases in which the Tigers have been using he and Tariq Skubal on a tight innings limit, so that is something that needs to come into play. Though I will say for the Tigers, they've got a top 8 bullpen with regards to ERA ever since the All-Star break. Kyle Funkhauser has brought the funk. Ian Kroll has certainly had a little bit of regression, but at the same time, Gregory Soto has been very good for the team. Derek Holland, surprisingly, has been able to give you a couple innings along with Michael Fulmer, and then you take a look at the lineup of the Detroit Tigers, and you don't have a lot of guys that are doing a great job of mashing. You got Jonathan Scope, Eric Goss, Robbie Grossman, all with between 20 and 23 home runs. But for Scope, he's got like 3 home runs ever since the All-Star break. He is hitting a 280 though, and in the case of Haas, along with Robbie Grossman, these guys are in between about a 233 to a 240. Miguel Cabrera, he along with Jeimer Candelario, both with a combined 29 home runs. These guys are in between about a 260 to a 275. You've had Dustin Garneau at the catcher spot be able to give you a little bit of something, and Derek Hill sitting about a 260 as well. And they run into a Tampa Bay Rays team in which you've got a whole bunch of guys that will be able to supply the boom. All these guys at least 30 home runs. Mike Zunino, Nelson Cruz, Brandon Lau, for Lau, right around a 235 batting average, but the on-base percentage more like a 320. You've got a guy in Austin Meadows that has right around 25 home runs for this bunch as well. And if you take a look at the starters yesterday, all but one of them so far this year, a double-digit amount of homers. That's Kevin Kiermaier, who's out there for his glove, and he, along with Andy Diaz, Manuel Margot, all these guys, in the lineup yesterday, in between a 245 to a 255. Wander Franco is currently on the injured list, but with the Tampa Bay Rays, you know this. Bullpen is going to be firing all cylinders. Nick Anderson is back off the injured list along J.P. Fireeisen and Pete Fairbanks. David Robertson is going to be able to give you some solid innings. Andrew Kittredge still has a sub-2 ERA of his own as well. So I did take a look at this spot. I did wind up setting the Rays as a minus 144 favorite, despite the fact that Patino has been a little bit inconsistent. Now, what I will say for Patino is that his home and road splits are very stark. You take a look at him at home, 291 ERA, 693 on the road. At home, has given up 5 home runs in 34 innings, so a little bit of fear there, but opponents are getting a 220 off of him at home compared to a 266 on the road. So in that for lower, taking a look at the over 9 or higher to the under, and with the Rays, minus 144 is what I'm setting them as a favorite. 971, 972 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles are going to be in the road face-off against the Boston Red Sox. I was saying Cruz Sale a little bit earlier, but it looks like he might not be making the start due to COVID-19. Meanwhile, Keegan Aiken is going to be going for the Orioles. If it would be Cruz Sale, I had the Red Sox as north of a $3 favorite, and well, if you wind up having someone like a Connor Seabold, the Red Sox are still probably going to be like a minus 275 favorite. I mean, this is an Orioles team that they are very, very poopy right now, kids. I know I'm using just such professional terms on this one, but you take a look at the Orioles, and Cole Sulzer is really your only good bullpen arm. I will say Tyler Wells has been able to give you a little bit of something, but he has not been great. Fernando Abad, he is very, very bad. I mean, that's a name in which it is very accurate of him. Mike Bauman is someone I have no faith in. Marcos DePlan as north of a 5 ERA. Then you've got a guy in Keegan Aiken that just flat out stinks. He's got a 6.83 ERA. He's been used out of the bullpen. He's been used as a starter, and he's gotten shelled every single time he's been used. 3.9 walks per 9 innings. He's given up right around 1.7 home runs per 9. He just keeps on giving up runs upon runs upon runs. This is a man that has given up at least 3 runs, and I believe now 5 out of his last 7 appearances overall. I mean, it is just unsightly bad. And you got a Boston Red Sox team that they do a great job of being able to rip the cover off the ball, as you've now got pretty much all of your guys off of the COVID-19 list, and they are rested, so they are going to be having that at their disposal, as you've got all these guys hitting really in that realm of, I would say, about a 270 to a 285 in Rafael Devers, Kyle Schwarber, Kevin Plawecki, along J.D. Martinez. For J.D. Martinez, he's been able to go deep 26 times. Devers, north of 100 RBI, 34 bombs. Hunter Renfroe, he's been able to go deep 28 times. With Renfroe, Travis Shaw, Kike Hernandez, Christian Vasquez, and with the case of Travis Shaw, this is only while he's been with the Red Sox, but all these guys in between about a 248 to a 265, so they have been relatively solid. There's Andrew Bogaerts. He's hitting in the neighborhood about a 300, along with Alex Verdugo sitting at 290, so these guys have been great. And for the Red Sox, they are getting reinforcements in the bullpen. They've been dealing with not having Matt Barnes out there, but at the same time, Adam Ottavino has been able to look a little bit better recently, along with Ansel Robles, after Robles looked very shaky to start the year. You've got Eric Kazusado Mora back off of the COVID-19 list. This is someone who's got right around a 3-ish ERA. Then you just take a look at the Baltimore Orioles, and if there is a redeeming quality with this team, it is the fact that the lineup has not necessarily been terrible, as you've got quite a feoo guys that have north of 20 home runs for this team. Trey Mancini, Austin the Say's Kid, Ryan Mountcastle, along with Cedric Mullins. For Hayes, along with Trey Mancini, Anthony Santana, and Ryan Mountcastle, only between about a 248 to a 262. Cedric Mullins is hitting at 300 for this bunch, but then you've got Domingo Leyba, Austin Wins, Pat Faleka, Ryan McKenna, DJ Turn It Up, Stewart, along Kelvin Gutierrez, a lot of guys for this bunch hitting at 210 or lower, so it does make it a little bit of a horse apiece situation. This is going to be a case in which the Orioles are going to be a very sizable underdog. With Sale going, I was looking at a 9 or lower being a case of an over a 9.5 or higher to the under. If it winds up being someone like Connor Seabold, probably would be taking a look at anything below a 10 over. But check back in the morning with Twitter feed at GRS41 for set plays there. 973, 974 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers going to be playing OC Chicago White Sox. Dylan Cease and Decease is going to be going for the Sox. Taylor Hearn is going to be going for the Rangers. Rangers find themselves as underdogs anywhere between plus 148 and a plus 179. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the White Sox, going to be getting them anywhere between minus 170 and minus 195. 9 is your total, over and under, both at minus 110. And for Dylan Cease, you have to be taking into account his home and road splits. This is someone that at home has a sub-3 ERA. For Dylan Cease on the road, his ERA climbs to right around a 5.3-ish. So that has been an issue. And for the Rangers, they've actually been very good in the starts of Mr. Taylor Hearn. Now, ESPN is currently showing that Kobe Allard is going to be the starter for this team, and I think that is something that is going to be a little bit of a flip Peru. But with Taylor Hearn, he has been able to do a great job whenever he's taken the mound recently for the Rangers. And I mentioned the split. They've actually won each out of his last 4 starts as he's given up 3 runs or fewer in each out of the 5. Now, I will say for Hearn, he has given up 7 home runs in the team's last 4 starts, so he has been giving up the deep out quite a bit, but still, 2 walks given up in his last 5 starts, going 5+ innings at every one of them. So the command has been there for him. He's backed up by a bullpen that has looked a little bit better recently. You've been able to get some good innings out of someone like a Brett Martin and a Spencer Patton. Joe Barlow has a sub-2 ERA. For the White Sox, this is a team that actually has a sub-500 record on the road. You've got a lot of guys for this bunch are in between, I would say, about a 255 to, I would say, about a 265-ish. Lurie Garcia, Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez are all guys that are in this fold. And then with Eloy Jimenez, he has been struggling a little bit with the deep ball recently. Jose Abreu, he has been in the top 3 with regards to RBI all season long. 29 home runs, so he's been able to do a great job there. Tim Anderson is back. He's hitting at 300. Luis Robert hitting nearly at 350 is absolutely incredible. And whenever you've had out there Yasmani Grandal, he has been incredible. He's been getting a home run once every about 7 at-bats since coming off the injured list, so that has been tremendous for the team. Then you take a look at the Texas Rangers, and you do have Adolis Garcia, who's been able to give you 30 home runs so far this year. He's been in and out of the fold recently, but has been able to give you a tad bit of something. And you just got back Willie Calhoun as he, Nate Lowe, Isaiah Kinner, Falefa, all these guys are in between about a 255 to a 265. You do need to get a little bit more of something out of some of these guys. DJ Turned-Up Peters, along Leody Taveras, Brock Holt. You're able to go down the list of guys earning a 215 or lower, but I will say this, for DJ Turned-Up Peters, he has been able to give you a little bit of something. 11 home runs in the course of about 150 at-bats with this team, so he has been able to supply a little bit of boom. And then when you take a look at the White Sox bullpen, it has been a little bit shaky recently, but you certainly do have star power. Liam Hendricks along Craig Kimbrell are very solid. Michael Kopech needs to rein it in a little bit more, but I think that you're going to be able to get some good production out of him. I like what I'm seeing out of Jose Ruiz along with Ryan Tepera as well, so I do think that this is a spot in which, even though Dylan Cease has not necessarily been himself whenever he has been on the road, I think that he's going to be able to find a little bit of something and is warranted of being a favorite, but I was only willing to lay up to about a minus 150 in this spot. Seeing the Texas Rangers in some spots as high as a plus 175 and at 179 at one book, I'm certainly going to be taking a shot here. And when it comes to this total, I was willing to take the over as long as it was sub 9. Getting to that 9 mark now, I'm going to be taking a look at the under because with the Rangers, they have scored the fewest runs per game ever since the All-Star break. So going under along with the White Sox. 975, 976 on the betting board. Got the Kansas City Royals, and they're going to be playing against the Seattle Mariners. Chris Flexen is going to be going for the Mariners. Brady Singer is going to be on the bump for the Royals. Royals are finding themselves as slight underdogs here with the Royals. Going to be getting them as bad as a minus 104, as good as a plus 104. And if you're taking a look at the Mariners, anywhere between minus 106 and minus 120 is your price. 9 to 9.5 is your total. On the 9, over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. On the 9.5, under is between minus 120, minus 125. Over is between even and plus 105. And for Chris Flexen, he wound up having some very demonstrative home and road splits to begin the year, and they are still relatively sizable, but at the same time, he has been able to rein it in much more on the road recently. You take a look at him, and he has been able to do a relatively solid job giving up 3 runs or fewer in now 6 out of his last 7 road starts. On the road still has a 4.54 ERA, but a 5-1 record in his 12 road starts. Has given up 11 home runs in 69 and a third innings, but really since the All-Star break has been a different pitcher on the road. And then you take a look at Brady Singer, and this is just one of the most interesting things I've ever seen in my life. You take a look at him with his 4-10 record overall. He's got a 4.70 home ERA, but in 14 starts at home, he's given up 1 home run in 69 innings despite having that 4.70 ERA. His opponents are getting 2.96 off of him. It's not like he's given out a ton of walks, right around 3 walks per 9 innings. Nothing great, nothing terrible, so that has been just very fascinating to say the least. This is the Kansas City Royals bunch of which the offense has not necessarily been there, and it's been all about Salvador Perez. He's right now leading the league in terms of home runs and RBI with 45 bombs at 112 RBI. He has been amazing for this bunch as he, Whit Merrifield, Andrew Benintendi, along with Adalberto Mondesi and Sir Alberto, only between a 266 and a 278. Nicky Lopez is hitting a 300 for this bunch with them from there. You've got guys like a Hunter Dozier, Ed Olivares. You're able to throw in there Carlos Santana and Sebastian Rovero. hitting at 225 or lower. Have been able to get a little bit of something out of Mr. Isbell, their new center fielder, hitting about a 280 for the season. For the Kansas City Royals, their bullpen does rank in the top 6 with regards to ERA ever since the All-Star break, but it was used up very heavily yesterday for 7 innings as Joel Payampas, Domingo Tapia, Josh Samount, Jake Brents all wound up having to come out of the bullpen, so Scott Barlow certainly going to be on call in this one. And for the Seattle Mariners, I do recognize that the bullpen in the past couple days has been a little bit more shaky, giving up that 6th spot in the 10th inning to the Boston Red Sox, but Casey Sadler is right around a 1 ERA. Paul Sewald has been solid for the team, Drew Second-Rider. He certainly has been able to get the job done. And then when you take a look at the Seattle Mariners, the batting average has not necessarily been the forte for the team, but you take a look at what Abraham Toro has done ever since coming over to Seattle, and he has been very good for this bunch, hitting right around 285 along Ty France. You've got J.P. Crawford hitting at 265, and then Mitch Haniger and Kyle Seager. A combined 67 home runs between these two guys. Now, when it comes to the batters of this Seattle Mariners team, you got a lot of guys sitting at 210 or lower. Seager, I mentioned a little bit earlier. Jake Fraley, Shed Long, Tom Moore, Cal Raleigh, Ode Mamaloe, Dylan Moore, Jared Kelnick. I mean, need we go on of guys that are not necessarily hitting well, but with that said, they found a way to be able to generate some offense with the Seattle Mariners. I was willing to lay up to about a minus 132 in this spot, so I'm going to be riding with them. And when it comes to this total, they wind up setting it at an 8.8. So we're going to be going under in this spot, and I'm going to be going to the Seattle Mariners. 977, 978 on the betting board. The Oakland A's hit the road face-off against the LA Angels. Right now, the betting board says to be determined for the Angels. I'm showing on ESPN one Shohei Ohtani, and I think that's what DraftKings is going off of, as they set the Angels as a minus 120 favorite, and they set the Oakland A's as even money, as they'll be throwing out their Cole Irvin. And at DraftKings, the line on this total is 8 with the over at minus 115, and the under is minus 105, only place in which I'm currently seeing numbers. But if we do wind up getting Mr. Ohtani versus Irvin, wound up saying the Angels as a minus 113 favorite. I did wind up saying the total at an 8.7 with Shohei Ohtani. He's given up 2 runs or fewer in now 12 out of his last 15 starts, so he has been able to do a very solid job ever since the All-Star break. He's got an ERA that hovers right around 2, and what has been really good for Shohei Ohtani, he has been able to do a much better job with the walks ever since the All-Star break. Sub 2 walks per 9 innings, and at home he's really been able to do his best work. On the road, a 5.02 ERA, .99 ERA at home. At home has given up just 6 home runs over the course of 63 and a third innings, and opponents are getting a .96 off of him. Meanwhile, you take a look at Cole Irvin, and well, things have regressed on him, and that is in a big way. He's given up at least 3 runs in now 4 out of his last 6 starts. You take a look at what he wound up doing in the month of August at a .491 ERA, and really, ever since the beginning of the month of August, his ERA is north of a 5.5, so that's been an issue. Now, what Cole Irvin hasn't done is given up the deep ball. This is someone that is giving up sub 1 home run per 9 innings and fewer than 2 walks per 9, so he has been consistent there. He's just very much a pitch-to-contact guy that's getting fewer than 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so the ball gets put in play a lot. He's facing off against an LA Angels team that they were able to get their offense going yesterday, but ever since the All-Star break, second fewest runs per game of any team out there in the American League. You do have quite a few guys that are in between, I would say, about a 265 to 275, Brandon Marsh, David Fletcher, along with Jared Walsh, and for Walsh, the offense has certainly regressed on him a little bit. 5 home runs ever since the All-Star break. David Fletcher hitting about a 240 ever since the beginning of the month of August. Shohei Ohtani is hitting below the middle line of 200 with 8 home runs ever since, I believe it's July 28th. So he has been in a little bit of a funk. Max Essie's hitting about a 255, and then you've got Luis Renifo, Jack Mayfield, along with Mr. Rojas, Kie Wong, all these guys hitting a 225 or lower, so that's been a little bit of an issue. And for the LA Angels, what else is an issue is this bullpen, as you've got Junior Guerra rocking right around a 5-ish ERA. Steve Cishek has been able to give you a little bit of something. Oliver Ortega is someone that you're looking to for innings, along with Jose Quijada. That is not a place where you want to be right now. And for the Oakland A's, their bullpen has been the second worst in baseball over the last 30 days, with nearly a 6-day. Ulis Carrera wound up getting used up yesterday. Sergio Romo has been a hot mess the last couple weeks, along with Lou Trevino. Trevino's ERA is probably hovering right around like 8 over the last 30 days. He has been that bad, but you have been able to get some good innings out of someone like an Andrew Chafin. And then you take a look at the lineup of the Oakland A's, and Matt Olson has been tremendous for the team. 35 home runs. He's hitting at 275. You do have quite a few guys doing a good job with their on-base percentages. We got the Marte Parte of Starling Marte, Tony Kemp, along with Olson, Mark Canha. You're able to throw in there Josh Harrison, all at least a 350 on-base overall for the season. Now, losing Matt Chapman, who wound up having a double-digit amount of homers ever since the beginning of the month of August, that certainly has hurt the team a little bit, but you do have Young Gums, who's been able to give you a little bit of something. Seth Brown, along with Sean Murphy, both have been able to slug out 16 home runs as well. So a little bit of an interesting spot here with the Angels. Set them as a minus 113 favorite, and an 8.5 or lower. I'm going to be taking a look at the over, and a 9 or higher. Going to be taking a look at the under, and we're going to have things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. It's the Arizona Diamondbacks on the road against the Houston Astros. As of right now, it is showing on ESPN as Luis Garcia going for the Astros. Meanwhile, Mad Bum Madison Bumgarner is going to be going for the Arizona Diamondbacks. The betting board has to be determined for the Houston Astros, which is why this game is presently off the board. But if it is Garcia against Bumgarner, set the Astros as a minus 206 favorite, minus 124 on the run line. And this is a total in which an 8.5 or lower. I'm going to be taking a look at the over, and a 9 or higher. I'm going to be taking a look at the under. Currently, no numbers listed pretty much anywhere on this game. Seeing a couple pop at DraftKings, seeing the Astros at minus 235, plus 190 on the Arizona Diamondbacks with a total of 9, with the over and under both at minus 110. So in this spot, we'll probably be targeting an Astros run line to go along with an under, as Luis Garcia has been just such a vastly different pitcher home to road. You take a look at what Garcia has been able to do at home. 2.19 ERA compared to a 4.85 on the road in Houston. He's given up 6 home runs in 74 innings, 11 home runs in 65 innings given up on the road, and at home, opponents throwing a $196 off of him, 257 on the road, swings and misses increase as well. You take a look at Madison Bumgarner on the other side, and he wound up giving up 3 runs or fewer in each out of his first 6 starts coming off the injured list. Ever since then, things have certainly been drying up for him, as he has now given up at least 4 runs in each out of his last 4 starts, 5 runs in each out of his last 3, and he has given up 7 home runs over the course of his last 4 starts as well. And the walks, they are all over the place right now as well. 13 walks over the course of his last 4 starts, so that has been slightly bad. The team is 0-4 in these starts, and rightfully so. And take a look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, and you do not have a good bullpen for this team. Jake Faria is a failed starter, along Taylor Widener that they're using out of the bullpen. Joe Manatipley has a sub-4 ERA, but you've got guys like a Brett DeGeis, who's got right around an ERA of 7 that has been just absolutely terrible. Then you've got an Houston Astros team that Kendall Graveman has been able to do a good job of being able to come in for this team, give you some innings. Ryan Presley has been solid. Blake Parker has been able to hold down the fort. And then you take a look at this Houston Astros lineup, and you've got a lot of mashers for this team. Carlos Correa, Kyle Tucker, Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, all these 22 home runs, all guys hitting at least at 275 for the team. Michael Brantley has been in and out of the fold recently, but he's hitting above a 300 along Yuli Gurriel. Gurriel's hitting at 315 with 14 home runs. Alex Bregman, ever since coming back into the fold, he's hitting nearly at 300. And with the injuries that this team has had, Jose Siri has been hitting right around at 400. So, I mean, just go figure. You've got a lot of guys that they're able to take a yard, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, you don't have a single guy in the roster with more than 12 home runs right now. I mean, it is just absolutely amazing. Although, you do have the Marte Parte of Ketel Marte. He's been able to do a good job hitting at 323, but with Marte, Jose Rojas, Carson Kelly, Dalton Varsho, Pavin Smith, all these guys between 10 and 12 home runs. And I will say, for pretty much all these guys aside from Varsho, they've been hitting a 240 or greater. And for Varsho, ever since the All-Star break, he's been hitting more like a 270. So give him a little bit of credit. David Peralta hitting right around 265 for this bunch. But hard to have a lot of faith here in the Arizona Diamondbacks right now with the run line of the Houston Astros at DraftKings, finding that at minus 115. I'd be willing to lay up to about a minus 125 in that spot, so I'd be taking a look at that DraftKings line at an under along the Houston Astros on the run line, and that'll wrap things up for the Baseball Betting Podcast on this most wonderful Friday. A big thanks to Dan Szymborski of FanGraphs for joining me in the last segment. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Podcast with Greg Peterson, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you've got a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you've got 1 or 2 ways we offer these in. First one is my Twitter timeline at JR_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. Naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Going to be coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, and coming at you guys once again tomorrow from the great state of Minnesota. So hopefully you guys are all well, and I'll chat at you guys then. Thank you.